I had been working at this corporation for 5 years. They weren't just years. This was my life, my identity, forged in sleepless nights and endless conference calls. My goal was clear, the director of department position. I didn't just want it, I earned it. But my main competitor turned out to be my own boyfriend. Let's call him Matt. We had been together for 2 years and living together for 18 months. I was proud that we were the perfect corporate power couple. We didn't compete. We collaborated. Our apartment was littered with sticky notes containing our shared ideas. We were the partners who prepped for presentations in the kitchen, drank coffee, and discussed strategy until dawn. We often joked, "May the best person win," and we'll still go home together and order pizza. At the time, I believed that phrase with all my heart. I genuinely believed that our career ambitions would bring us closer, that we would be each other's support, regardless of who got the promotion. I saw Matt not just as my partner, but as my best friend, someone who understood the value of this fight. But over the last 3 months, something shifted. The tension grew, and it wasn't just work anxiety. It was a coldness that was creeping into our relationship. I started noticing strange, small things about Matt's behavior that I initially blamed on stress. He became obsessively secretive. If I walked into the room while he was working, he would snap his laptop shut, almost instinctively, as if he were hiding something critical. He stopped discussing his presentations with me, citing strict project confidentiality. I would ask, "Matt, what's going on?" We always shared everything. He'd brush me off. "There's just too much pressure, and I don't want to burden you with my anxiety." I, like an absolute fool, believed him, convincing myself he was just nervous about the deciding moment. Our boss, Mr. Smith, was old school, a proponent of strict objectivity. He announced that the promotion decision would be based solely on the quality of our final projects, our big concluding presentation, which was meant to lay out the future direction of the department. The stakes were impossibly high. For me, it was a ticket to a new life. For him, an opportunity to prove his worth. I felt I had the lead. My project was more innovative, more aggressive in its growth projections, and I knew Smith valued that exact approach. I was confident. That confidence now seems like the biggest mistake of my life. My presentation was scheduled for 9 a.m. on Monday. It was the culmination of my last 4 months. The deepest analysis, 3-dimensional growth models, a completely new market strategy. I worked myself to exhaustion to ensure it was flawless. On Sunday at 10 p.m., I finally completed the last revision, quadruple-checked access rights, uploaded the final file to our work cloud, created a local copy on an external drive, and feeling a rare sense of peace, went to bed. Matt was asleep, face down on his pillow, and out of habit, I kissed the back of his head, wishing him luck. At that moment, he already knew what he had done. In the morning at 8:30, I sat down at my desk. When I opened the file, my hands went cold, and a painful beat skipped in my chest, ringing in my ears. A glitch. Reboot was my first thought. I restarted the computer, reopened the file. Nothing. All of the critical data was gone. The charts I had spent weeks building were just empty fields. Instead of detailed reports, there was only unreadable code, as if someone had used a malicious encryption virus. I frantically searched for backups. Local drive, my personal cloud, flash drives. I kept them everywhere, following the golden rule of IT. If it's important, keep it in 3 places. But they were all gone. It was as if someone knew not just where to look, but how I think, and had surgically wiped every single copy, even the most remote ones. I had 10 minutes until the meeting. I had to walk out and, with a tremor in my voice, tell Smith that there had been an unexplained and total technical failure, and I couldn't provide the data. The presentation was a disaster. I looked incompetent, like I had completely fabricated the numbers. Smith looked at me with cold disappointment that pierced me to the bone and said, "Your preparation does not meet the standards we expect from a director. This is regrettable." 2 days later, Matt got the promotion. He came home beaming, with a bouquet and a bottle of expensive champagne. He hugged me, feigning sympathy. "Don't worry, honey," he said. "I'll take care of us now and you can relax a bit. It's all for the best. I told you how much I love you." I didn't just feel sick. I felt an acute physical sense of nausea. It was a lie. I knew someone had deliberately destroyed my work. And now I was looking at the person who was pretending to be my savior, my partner, holding champagne to celebrate his own malice. That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay next to him, listening to his steady breathing, and for the first time in my life, I felt not love, but a cold, calculated hatred. I needed revenge, but first I needed proof. I couldn't go to HR with just suspicions. It would look like a jealous meltdown after losing. I contacted Dan, my old friend from IT security, who had been let go for being too honest. I explained the situation, withholding Matt's name, and asked him to help me figure out why my files were corrupted. I told him about my suspicions, about how Matt had become secretive. Dan was not only a professional, but knew me well enough to understand I wouldn't raise such a fuss without a solid reason. For a solid week, I lived a double life that wore me down to the core. By day, I feigned resignation and pride for Matt. I smiled. Listened to him boast about his new responsibilities. His first business trip, his new business card, which looked exactly like the one that should have been mine. "I'm so proud of you, dear," I said, each time feeling a part of my soul die, and another part grow colder and more calculating. At night, when he was asleep, I quietly opened my laptop. I felt like a spy in my own home. It was horrifying, sleeping next to the man who, I already strongly suspected, had destroyed my career. Dan worked fast and quietly. He sent me reports. I analyzed them, sitting in the dark, reading lines of code that meant nothing to a normal person. First, he found anomalous access to my work cloud at 11 p.m. on Sunday from a remote IP address. That was the start. Then, Dan discovered that the same IP address had attempted access to my personal cloud and the external flash drive I connected to my work computer. A targeted surgical strike. He knew where all my copies were stored, and then Dan found the thing that shattered my world. That IP address was linked to a specific VPN server that Matt had carelessly used for streaming sports. Dan was even able to pull activity logs from that VPN server for the exact hours. The username? Matt Work Laptop. He hadn't even bothered to change the nickname. This IP led straight back to his personal laptop, which was sitting in the next room. He thought he had masked his trail, but he left a blatant, screaming digital footprint of his guilt. I had irrefutable proof of his sabotage. Then my real internal struggle began. What to do? Quietly inform HR? Get Matt a quiet dismissal and then claim my position? My friends, whom I had cautiously hinted at the situation, advised, just get rid of him quietly, take the job, and move on. Why invite scandal? But after everything I had endured, after his betrayal, his hypocritical hugs, his false reassurances, I realized a quiet exit was not justice. I didn't just want my seat back. I wanted him to pay for every tear I had swallowed, for every hour of my sleepless investigation, for every night spent lying next to him in a web of lies. I wanted him to lose his job, his reputation, and most importantly, I wanted him to publicly lose his smug face. My thirst for revenge became stronger than my fear of the consequences. I waited. My opportunity arrived a month later at the quarterly company meeting. It was the biggest event. All the executives, all 300 employees, key investors, and even the press. Matt was scheduled to give his first major speech as director, presenting himself as the company's new pristine face, a symbol of success and integrity. He stood on the stage in his new, perfectly tailored suit that I myself had helped him choose. He spoke about corporate ethics, honesty, and the trust he would bring to the department. I nearly gagged from the hypocrisy. I sat in the front row next to Mr. Smith, watching him. He looked self-satisfied, confident. The moment he delivered the final, most pompous line, "Success is only achieved through honest means," without deceit, I gave Dan, who was sitting in the projection booth, the prearranged signal. Dan instantly projected gigantic, undeniable screenshots onto the main screen, directly behind Matt's head. The first showed the access logs from his IP, the exact time, date, and his VPN username. The second was a screenshot of his private text message exchange with a friend, sent minutes after the sabotage. LOL, I deleted her data, the promotion is mine. She'll never figure it out. Too trusting, the hall erupted. It wasn't a whisper. It was a roar that quickly escalated into shouting and chaos. All 300 employees, including Mr. Smith, who jumped out of his seat, stared first at the words and then at Matt. Matt's face instantly turned a deathly white. He tried to speak, but only a pathetic croak escaped his throat. Mr. Smith, without a word, walked up to him, took his arm, and firmly motioned for him to leave the stage immediately. That same evening, Matt was fired for fraud, sabotage, and violating corporate ethics. His reputation was ruined, not just at our company, but across the entire industry. He lost his job, his reputation. He came home and cried, begging for forgiveness, kneeling on the floor. "I was thinking of us," he pleaded. "I thought if I got the promotion, I could provide a better future for us." "I did it for us!" I looked down at him. Finally, I spoke. "You weren't thinking of us. You were only thinking of yourself. Partners don't destroy each other. They support each other." I simply and silently packed his belongings into boxes and pushed them out the door. He was nothing more than a colleague who betrayed me. I got his position 2 weeks later, and finally I could breathe easy. I am the director. But I still wonder, was my revenge too harsh and public? Or did he absolutely deserve that public shame for his petty and deceitful betrayal? Let me know what you think in the comments.